Should founders stop faking it until they make it? Find out next on this episode of This Has to Work. Kelly, when I say fake it till you make it, what immediately comes to mind?
At first, quiet confidence. And then there is a tipping point where the cat is out of the bag and you look like a deer in headlights.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think, fake it till you make it. I think there was a time when it kind of signaled grit and I'm just going to figure it out, right? You're faking it till you make it, but at the same time, you're learning simultaneously to try to get to a point where you no longer have to fake it. But I think we all can have a tendency to take that a little bit too far and it starts to have diminishing returns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This to me feels a lot like the ultimate founder cope, as the kids like to say. This is an excuse for being unprepared. It's an excuse for not having a clear vision. It's an excuse for being inexperienced. It's an excuse for not having the answers that you should have in the phase that you are. Where it gets particularly disturbing to me is when people are raising money with investors in the fake it till they make it phase of their, startup journey. Feels wholly irresponsible and dishonest.
Yeah.
And I think we use it as an excuse to say, well, they've got to gain their experience somewhere. I understand that, but there's a way to do that that's very honest and open and candid and vulnerable, because investors are fine with speculation, but this just feels like some form of, I don't know, fashionable lying.
I think we've kind of made a bed. If you are in capital allocation, I think we've made a bed that we're now having to lay in. And I think the root cause of a lot of some of the things that we've been discussing about venture creation, backing companies, starts with entrepreneurs not understanding how investors think. And I think that's because investors don't share how they think. So we don't really know how they're coming to the table. And a lot of entrepreneurs are operating off of this Silicon Valley lore that you have to have it all figured out. And that is lore. And even investors in the Valley don't think that way. So if you come to the table very clear about what's working, what's not, what you know and what you don't, that's actually really refreshing and people can help you.
I like that perspective because it shares the blame for this culture, and it kind of puts it back on everybody to say, all right, do I have unreasonable expectations for you at this phase? And because you feel like I have unreasonable expectations, the way you're going to cope with that is I'm going to adopt I'm faking it until I make it, because I'm trying to say what I think they want to hear. And I'm trying to project this progress or this traction or this capability that I haven't developed yet, because it sounds like that's what I have to have for these folks to take me seriously. So that perspective is really good. And I think well stated. Just wanted to say thanks. We recently hit 100 subscribers, and that's a big deal to me. May not be a big deal in the world of YouTube, but it certainly means a lot to me that you would subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, help us reach our next goal of 200 subscribers by subscribing today. When you are thinking about this, or when you're kind of experiencing this and you go, this feels a little like fake it till they make it, do you have any like warning signs, anything that sticks out to you where you're like, geez, and maybe it's always in hindsight, but do you have some things you go, oof, boy, that certainly feels like they're faking it?
A few things, and some have been hindsight. I think if a founder can't clearly explain their technology in concrete terms, it's AI enabled, or it's an AI product. Well, how is it an AI product? Is it a wrapper, or what does it do? The growth expectations and the growth metrics aren't rooted in reality as far as the market that they're trying to capture and as far as the stage. So that's a big flag too. And if you're coming to investors who know this space, not only is it a flag, it's a bit of, you're insulting their intelligence. So there's that part too. Customer testimonials that are a bit either just too generic. Too generic. There's no name, there's no face, just a random. Yeah, that would be one.
Oh, I like it. It's like a first name only.
Yeah, the first name
Karen
only.
says.
And if you're protecting privacy, that's one thing. And I think references to proprietary technology with no proof at all. So I would say those are the ones that have been red flags, both in real time and in hindsight.
Yeah, the one for me that's the biggest in hindsight, because I see it prove out over time, over and over again, is founders with very high profiles on like LinkedIn or Instagram or what have you. Yeah. And the very specific behavior that almost always turns out to be fake it till you make it are founders that make all of those things about them as the founder. It's not about their company. It's not about their product. It's not about their customers. They don't even have the anonymous, Karen says, this is a great product and everybody should buy it. It's not about that. It's not about, feature sets and new product announcements and things. It's like, oh, I just did this thing. Or look at me on stage where I pitched X, Y, and Z. And there's just no substance whatsoever around the product. To me, that has like 99% of the time turned out that, 12 months, 18 months, 36 months from the point at which you start seeing that, you go, this product's not good. This company's in bad shape, or there's no there at all.
Yeah, at that point, you err on the side of being an influencer. There's one thing to build in public, which I really appreciate and I find it fascinating. I love when founders do it, when they're sharing product updates and what they're seeing in real time and testimonials and what they're tweaking. But then there's to what you're talking about is when it's just focused on me. So at that point, you are an influencer. And if you're building a company, you probably don't have the time to really do that and to create content and all of that. So I agree with that assessment. That's interesting.
So what would be the alternative approach? How should founders think about how they're presenting themselves, how they're presenting their own capabilities in kind of real time compared to this, oh, I'm going to project this image that I've got it all figured out and that everything is great and that this thing is just a total steamroller and you should get on board or get run over, whatever the case may be. How would you tell them like alternative strategies? How should they be presenting themselves or representing themselves?
Yeah, I mentioned build in public, but I think two things that entrepreneurs can leverage is specificity and rationale, right? If you are doing something, building something, you don't have the answers. If you can specifically speak to what you don't understand, it just shows a level of self-awareness. People can help you. And it demonstrates that you may not know the answer, but you've been thinking deeply about it. And so you can clearly articulate what you need and what you don't know. And I also think if you are making decisions and you're not confident about those decisions, being able to clearly articulate your rationale. The why did you do this thing? Again, that shows that you've been deeply thinking about it, even though you don't have all the answers. And I also think all of us who support entrepreneurs, we have to create space for them to not have it all figured out and embrace that reality. And quite frankly, stop moving the pre-seed goalpost back. And if we're going to move it back, let founders know why. I don't think we've done a good job of explaining.
I agree
that.
with you. What are the benefits of taking more of that approach versus the fake it till you make it mentality?
It is very difficult for an investor or your team or an advisor or a mentor to help you through whatever obstacle exists so that you can run if they can't understand what the issue is or your rationale. It's just really difficult. And you spend more time trying to excavate that out of the founder. So the benefit is you get where you're trying to go a lot faster if you start to really dig into specificity and clarity. Clarity is a precursor to high performance, period.
So you've been on the end of this where as a program or as a manager of an accelerator from the programming side, from the selection side, I mean, you're in knee deep with the accelerator programs that you have run. When you experience someone who has been accepted into a cohort, it's gone through the screening, has done all the things, has answered all the questions, they get into the cohort, and then all of a sudden you're like, this is not at all what I thought it was, or in simplest terms, into the theme of the episode, they were faking it the whole time. Is it even possible for you to then work with those folks, or when that happens, and take them seriously, or is that relationship just kind of permanently damaged?
Yeah, it's workable. But our value proposition diminishes significantly. And the value that they will get out of it, if they don't adjust their expectations alongside us, then it can look like we didn't hold up our end of the bargain, and they won't get what they came in for. And so it's doable. It will, I won't say it will slow the rest of the cohort down, because it won't. But it does alter the value prop.
Yeah.
And so that's something we're mindful about. And quite frankly, you can't catch every instance of that. I mean, we go through due diligence. Accelerators do their part, but some things you just cannot catch, and you just don't know, quite frankly, because the founder doesn't know. And so you start peeling back those layers and then start to get more specific, and you're like, okay, we need to address this. We need to get some mentorship around this before we can attack this goal that you have.
So there you have it. We all have a responsibility to push back against the fake it till you make it culture. Founders, be honest, be authentic, be a little vulnerable. Explain what you know, explain what you don't know, where you're trying to go, and the struggles that you're having to get there. And if you're an investor, understand these folks are just trying to figure this out. They're not going to have all the answers, and you shouldn't expect that from them. So let's move forward, the most authentic versions of ourselves and of our companies, and we'll all be better off.
That.
Thanks so much for tuning in on this episode of This Has to Work. We'll see you next time. As always, like, comment, and subscribe.